Good morning, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thank you, guys, for accepting our invitation to be one of the panelists today. So let's start. I'll start with my friend here, Aaron. So, Aaron, how do you think blockchain be integrated to existing systems without causing disruptions? And can you give us some examples of projects that have done it successfully?
Hi. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the way we should approach this topic is really to be realistic. Okay, so for example, everyone talks about supply chain, management or ERP systems, and the reality is, traditional businesses, they're not going to move away. What they want to do is enhance their existing capability. So for example, let's say we have a sort of DeFi financing for trading, for example. Not all the data actually needs to be transferred on-chain, right? So, for example, you have, certain documents related to goods, related to payment. So this can actually be tokenized, and from there you can actually, issue these assets on-chain as sort of like a collateral, and you can, based on that, for example, obtain a loan, right? And and that's how it is. So you actually don't need to move off to a separate, totally separate. System. But that being said, recently there's an incident which is very famous because some people got stuck at the airport. So there was a CrowdStrike incident. And after the CrowdStrike incident, last week the Swiss government said that, okay, look, now we want all our ministries to actually start looking at open source software. So that's actually very significant. Because now what the government is saying is, we do not want any software provider that rolls out a bad patch or update and distorts my entire system. And that's very critical because it's related to national security. So for this kind of how to say situation, ICP, in case you didn't know, is a private, it's a decentralized cloud. It's the only next generation blockchain. It's the only one that can host AI fully on chain. But we also have a private product. It's called Utopia. So now governments can have their own version of ICP in a very private environment, and this is based off traditional cloud or even your own country's data server. So this is where we think the future lies, right? Is reinventing the software. But just in the meantime, I think integration with existing systems makes more sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm Brian from Uptick Network. So we are a Web3 infrastructure project focused on bringing the real economy into the Web3 space. Yeah, that's so because the traditional business system are all over here, right? So all over the world. So we should do something to bring them in. That's why we call it Web3 transformation. But in order to do that, I think we need to be more practical when talking to them and to bring more use cases. Which really solve the problem. It's not just an IT upgrade, right? So for them to have a decentralized backbone. But in other words, they have the operation model, business model. They also need to go into this Web3 mindset. That can really solve the problem. So I think there's a huge room to do, and also we are, I think, right on the time to really move on this Web3 transformation. Because if all the traditional business or ordinary people are excluded from this in the circle, what an awful waste we are doing, right? So I think that's the big trend we're facing right now.
So thanks for the question. I'm Sarviin from Aethir. We do GPU as a service. So I think three things on specifically which companies do well and how they do well. I think the three layers would be, the first, the enterprise users, second, the government, and third would be more on the project side. So maybe we can touch upon the enterprise side, given that our knowledge is in that. On the enterprise side of things, I think there's two ways to do things very well. The first is, I think it's a really good collaboration with all layers. So collaboration with all your enterprise software companies and also your infra companies. So that can be your AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. The second is key projects, right? So you want to have really good partners in this ecosystem so that the project can be really successful. For example, if you're in the custodian space, then go with the folks like Bitco, and go with more mature product players. Because they have really good APIs, they have really good documentations, and that really help the project succeed. I think on the second front would be more onto the core team itself. Typically projects that really do well, the core team have experience in the Web2 space for some time. So they're not pretty new to the space in terms of infrastructure, in terms of planning, in terms of entire development. So I think those are the key factors that contribute to really successful projects. So the team, the company, and also who you're partnering with. So those are the three factors.
Hi, I'm Victor from Manta Network. I think the crypto has been, developed for the past 10 years, and we right now have the whole ecosystem and whole infrastructure available for the Web2 or outside users to able to use, and this is the ecosystem works for doing DeFi and doing gaming and everything. So basically, it's been keep building new things and get the more higher throughput and better technology, and this enable the transaction can be happen on blockchain faster and cheaper. And I think this kind of infrastructure is needed, and we are keep building those kind of things. And for the outside users, there's general some more crypto native use cases, PerpDex, the Web3 gaming. But there's also the institution stuff. And recently we worked with BlackRock and some finance institution like custodian, and all of these are bringing the listed company and the regulated players get into the Web3. I think that's the kind of the trend to bring new users.
Thank you, guys. The second question, I want to start with you, Brian. What is a common variable that startups and companies often underestimate when implementing blockchain technology?
Okay, yeah. I think for the startup, start to do projects in Web3 and bring business into Web3, probably one big thing is how to solve the scalability issue. Because that's the key for the real business to operate in the Web3 model. So far, the whole industry is lack of good solutions. Right? So that's why people are all talking about TPS. But TPS is not enough. Actually, it's not the key. On the other side, the smart contract. So we say, okay, that's the engine for the tokenomics, for incentive. But smart contracts also have a big limitation. So we really bring some real-world case into that. Of course, we also need to follow the compliance. Because if it doesn't fit, no business will move in the large scale. So I think for the, and also in the traditional IT system, so you just need to, if you want to have a high performance, you have a data center, you have bandwidth. But on the Web3 architecture, so you have to pay the gas fee, right? If the volume growing up, then there will be huge gas fee will be costed. So that's something maybe not in the consideration of Web2 system. So I think all those things are become the one word, scalability, for the real system to operate in the Web3 environment. I think that's something we need to solve, and also we can provide a better solution, on-chain, off-chain, whatever combined solution to the traditional system and to the startup entrepreneur, so that they can quickly onboard and without doing a fake or failed test case only, right? So because right now a lot of cases are just a showcase, a demo. It's not scaled. So that's why there's a gap between the traditional and the Web3 right now.
Thank you. So Aaron, how's ICP handling that?
Actually, I want to say all the problem you mentioned has been solved. Not to brag, but ICP is more of a decentralized cloud than traditional blockchain. That means we don't have gas fees. The application owner will pay for like a hosting fee, so to say. We call it reverse gas fee. But you can transfer a Web2 model directly onto ICP without even thinking about, whether I should have a token or not, right? And it's really important because I think that for the longest time, right, our blockchain industry, some of you are in blockchain industry, some of you are not, but for those in the blockchain industry, I think we've just been going from this narrative from Bitcoin, to Ethereum. Bitcoin, you can run a program, but it's a script, it's highly limited by design, to Ethereum, which is a smart contract platform. But in actual fact, it's like everyone is sharing this one PC, right? This single state machine. That's what Ethereum is, right? But the internet computer actually works a lot more like the internet and a lot more like your PC. So our smart contract actually is the only smart contract where you can have an IP address that you can call upon. We're the only smart contract that can send and receive data. In Ethereum, you have to push data to Ethereum. That's why there's something called Oracle, right? We have a fully capable DAO. We can hold 400 gigabytes. That's massive. A smart contract that can hold 400 gigabyte means the smart contract can hold the entire copy of Grok, the AI by Elon Musk, Grok, So, from our perspective, because we went on a totally different path, to create this internet computer, we actually don't have any of the problems. So, but being in this space for so long, I can say that it is not perfect. There's always trade-offs, and that's why we have all the fellow panelists here, all the various technologies. I think the idea is really to understand what's out there and pick what's the best technology for our particular application. Yeah, so in this sense, actually, internet computer has no issues whatsoever. So if you are interested, you can let us know because we have a lot of grants and programs, and we have a $50 million accelerator program called Olympus, which will start fourth quarter, which I hope some of you will be interested in.
Victor, so how's Manta opinion about this?
I think Manta just used UVM, Ethereum virtual machine, same as most of the, Ethereum scaling solution. So, we just make Ethereum faster and cheaper, and make the existing dApps, easier, have a better user experience. So I think that's the kind of general user experience improvement for the current Web3 users.
Sarviin, do you want to wrap it up?
Sure. I guess wrap it up with 3 key areas we see. The order of importance. I think the first is user experience. So user experience can be both from the consumer side and also both on the enterprise side. And user experience can also be when you use a particular application or when you interact with the blockchain or the smart contract itself. I think most importantly above products and cities is customer support. When things really go bad, who do they deliver to, right? Is there some number, email, Discord, Telegram, Twitter you can go on to? So that's first. Second would be, I would say, scalability. So scalability in the sense that if you're an enterprise customer, can you replace this with your existing Web2 solutions? I think the answer today is 50-50. You may replace some, but not entirely. I think the last one is interoperability. Right? If I'm using a specific software, a specific infra, can my clients, can my partners also use the same? Right? Can they transact with fiat? Can they transact with crypto? I think that's something the space will evolve further. I think definitely in a positive direction I see currently.
Awesome, thank you. So let's move on to the third questions. Let's start with you, Sarviin. So besides cryptocurrency, what are the different industries using blockchain? And what are the challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, sure. I think the 2 big industries which have a huge market size would be for government usage and banks. I think the challenges is pretty apparent. The challenges come from 3 factors. The first factor is how do you regulate this space, right? You want to regulate it so that it's safe for everyone to use it, yet you do not want to constrain its abilities. I think the second factor here is trust. How do you ensure users are able to trust whatever uses software or application they're interacting with? And this trust takes time to build. It's not something you can get in a year. It takes 5 years, 10 years to build all the time. I guess when you're logging in any systems now and you use Gmail or any single sign-on, you trust it works. You trust it's safe. So I think trust takes time to evolve, and I think we've seen with institutions adopting the likes of Bitcoin, trust is slowly emerging in this ecosystem. I think the third factor here would be definitely more people. I think as the space evolves, we see more and more experienced people, both from the Web2 side and the Web3 side, coming to this space. So I think this is where we'll see governments, people be working for governments who have experience in Web3 and they will educate the governments. People who have worked in Web2 or Web3 companies will be eventually working for banks and they will evolve all the time. So I think this is more of a time thing, and we have to be patient and work with all the parties and we'll get to the right place at the right time. I just think it's a matter of time, and we just need to work, keep doing what we're doing, keep building what we're building, eventually we get there.
How about for you, Brian? What challenges and opportunities do you face?
Well, I think right now a lot of enterprises are adopting blockchain technology, but in my view, the biggest opportunity and challenge is in the consumer internet. Because that's the way we are building Web3, Web 3.0, right? So that's the next generation of internet. So we want to make sure they have the right user experience and that they have the actually to really solve the problem. Because you know right now in web internet, so the main business is a traffic business, right? So if you dominate the traffic, you know how to allocate the traffic, you are the center of the world. But we want to break it, right? So we want to break it. That's why we use Web3 technology to do that, bring the ownership to the individual, and also especially to bring the tokenomics into the whole business model change of Web3 space. Because that's the essential part to break this traffic-centric business model, platform-centric business model. I think that's the revolutionary way to move Web3 into the everyday life. So if the consumer users are really adopting this kind of use case or user experience, so all the enterprises will also consider they need to make change, because enterprises sometimes are conservative, right? So, but on the consumer side, we need to drive, we need to push this trend forward.
So Aaron, how's ICP, how's different industries using ICP now?
Yeah, I think, on the previous question I have some thoughts actually. The interesting thing that I found recently in an article is that someone said that the AI computation, right? So the power of computation on an AI model is a token, right? And someone said that AI is going to be so prevalent that this is going to be like the kilowatt hour of electricity, for example, right? So I think that's a really nice way of looking at it, because it means that it's a part of our life. It becomes a utility, and I think blockchain is the same. I think now people understand that what is blockchain about? It's about security, and that's why we have these new kind of projects like Eigenlayer, for example, which essentially takes the trust of Ethereum and basically allows people to purchase a part of the security, right? So actually, we should actually look at the unit cost of trust on blockchain. I think that's that's what I find interesting. As for the problems for the industry, I think the one that I find interesting, that I hope can add to the discussion, is actually unification of standards. So as you know, we have many different types of blockchain, many different types of standards, and it's getting a bit confusing, right, to be honest. So there's a particular Ethereum standard called ERC 3525, which is a semi-fungible token standard. So it has properties of both. But more importantly is that it's actually network compatible with like ERC 20, which is a fungible token standard, ERC 721, which is like a non-fungible token standard. So I think people are moving towards that. So not only in terms of unification of standards, I think that in the future, when everything is fully regulated and everything is absolutely clear, and by which point the governments also will understand that they have to make use of this technology because it's so achieve so much efficiency and so on and so forth. So I also think that a lot of the stuff that you see out here, which are very different topics, right? You talk about CBDC, you talk about digital asset, real asset tokenization, a bunch of stuff, right? All that probably will exist in a single environment in the future, and it should be all interoperable between public blockchains and other government blockchains and so on and so forth, right? So these are the compelling things. And for me, where the internet computer is really, I think it's a really well-designed platform. So I hope that with this part of this future, I definitely don't think that there will be a single dominant chain per se, but definitely I do think that there's something that we can offer that other chains cannot do, but at the same time there's stuff that other chains can do that we cannot do, right? So this is kind of my idea right now, where the future might be.
Oh, thank you, great answer. How about you, Victor? How's Manta dealing with that?
I mean, I think all the speakers already share everything. So, in general, my opinion is like right now the Ethereum dominates the security and Solana dominates the execution environment. So users are actually take transaction on Solana and believe Ethereum security. That's why there's so many staking stuff on Ethereum. I'm not really familiar with government blockchain. Even I did a lot of research in CBDC before, but I just don't think it's working right now. After 5 years, nothing has been really came out. So let's see how it goes.
Thank you. So let's start the fourth question with you, Victor. How do you engage with your stakeholders? And was there a key moment or communication that influenced your perspective?
I actually feel, all of the traction and hype coming from blockchain or crypto is because it's driven by the normal people who is from down to top. It's not from government to push these kind of things. That's the magic about this technology, and that's why we have passion. And every day there's new stuff coming up, and what we like about it. So we really care about users. We really care about community. I see a lot of regulators more and more also taking this approach and talk to the general public and more acceptable rather than try to find different approach using the explain blockchain in their way. What happens on Donald Trump recently speech, right? So I think it can be really exciting to see, what is the user-driven, what is the mass adoption, and what is the community-focused adoption in the coming years.
Thank you. So how's Aethir dealing with it?
Yeah, so interestingly, we work with our governments, mainly in APAC. I think the reason because GPU is such a prime resource right now that a lot of governments want to understand how can they get access to it for their corporates and how would it evolve in the future. So I think one key insight that emerged from our stakeholder management with governments is two things. First is some governments in Southeast Asia, or say most governments in Southeast Asia, are quite open to working with a lot of projects, given that we have a local angle. So for Malaysia, for example, Aethir is expanding. We are aiming to hire about 100 people by the end of next year. So we have a local angle to create job opportunities. We have a local angle to upskill talent. So from that point of view, it's a bit more easier to work with government given that we have shown the ability to contribute back to the Malaysian economy, and also look at how can we bring in talent, how can we bring in money, how can we also export all of this expertise outside of Malaysia. But I think this is not only limited to Malaysia. Malaysia has been doing a fantastic job for the past recent years. I think many governments around the world are doing similarly. Singapore has been doing very well. Vietnam, with one of the highest adoption of cryptocurrencies, is doing really well. So I think government stakeholder management has been really doing well, very well for us. And the key reason is to be able to show to the government how does it impact the economy in a positive way, directly.
So Brian, how's Uptick engaging with your stakeholders?
Yeah, actually, so we have been doing a lot in this space right now because our goal is to really bring Web3 into the real economy. So that actually involves multiple parties we need to work with. For example, back to that compliance part, the government, they want to boost Web3 like Hong Kong government, right? So, but they need to find the real solution. They want to see the real cases that will really benefit the local economy. So we have to do that, to work with them, to understand what they need and what we can bring to that in the middle of the balance, right? On the other side, for the ecosystem, if we want to grow, we need to have better developers, and we want to more business who understand this type of business model. So that's why actually we are taking another step forward. For example, when we talk to a lot of business, say, okay, how can you be into Web3? They have to understand a lot from top to down, right? Full stack things, even like developers. That doesn't work very well. So for our approach, we build our base layer and also protocol layer and the service layer. So basically, we want to bottom up to bring all the ready-to-use modules to them. For example, we defined several Web3 economy models, like a sharing economy, creator economy, fans economy, loyalty economy, something like that, and also social commerce economy models. When they see this type of packed protocols and the models, they understand what they can do, or what they can do to quickly be on board. So that's something we can bring them in. So that's why we need to work with all those stakeholders, developers, business, government, to make sure they understand they are doing something, well, have a big potential to connect to the real economy. That's the way, well, the economy is going, right?
Thank you. So Aaron, why don't you give us some insights from ICP?
Yeah, so I would like to approach this from two perspectives, right? So, stakeholder, I think at a global level, I think it's very important to work with organizations like United Nations. So recently we embarked on a project with the United Nations, UNDP to be exact, on a project for Universal Trusted Credential. So what is Universal Trusted Credential, right? It's like a digital ID, right? Where authorities can issue company registration or permits, all on chain, and we'll be able to use this to collect data, link it to an ID, and based on that, we can offer companies in Cambodia, the micro SME, we can offer them microfinancing. One of the partners is MSIG, Mitsui Sumitomo, so they offer micro insurance, right? So you see, we are able to use blockchain in a way that can, solve some of the, UN problems, SDG problems, right? But also at the same time, this project will be rolled out in 10 countries. So I think 3 in Southeast Asia, 1 in the Middle East, the rest in Africa. But the moment that you have this system that's adopted by multiple countries, you're also able to execute trade. So now you're able to verify whether this supplier from Cambodia is reliable, they have healthy cash flow, they have a good track record, so on and so forth, everything on chain. And we also have a system called anonymous credential. So that means that you do not need to reveal all your data. So for example, now you just, let's say, request for a company profile and they give you perhaps some copy or some certificate. You don't know whether it's updated or not, you don't know whether it's genuine. But through this system, you can actually just verify that. And that is a bigger part of what the United Nations has planned. So United Nations have a very big project pipeline across all their entities, and this is where we're working right at an international level. Now, on the local context, I see some very encouraging things. The fact that OffChain has decided to make this their host city for this wonderful event, and also MDEC happily supporting and also being very accommodative. I think Malaysia market, for me, I've been in this space 11 years in Malaysia, so I can say that we're about to see a tremendous growth. And the one thing that really excites me, in fact, because I've been working between Singapore and Malaysia, is our special financial zone and special economic zone, which will be established. The details will come out by the end of the year, but in that particular zone, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a digital asset regulation. And I'm very sure that that regulatory environment will be friendlier in Singapore. Because this is one of the reasons why Dubai has taken the lead. So in fact, Dubai, if you know Dubai, you understand that there's a lot of free zones, right? So with the various free zones, they're able to basically have many different products for people to choose from. Whereas Singapore was kind of like limited. So I have very high hopes for this particular project. And in terms of just central bank research or CBDC, so the creator and maintainer of the Direct Computer Protocol is Definity Foundation based in Switzerland. And we have very close collaboration with the government there, especially the city of Lugano, city of Zurich, and we also have very good relationships with the universities there. So I can tell you that the amount of research that's done and the level at which they're at is really advanced, okay? I won't go in depth. If you want to find me after, we can talk about it. But the Central Bank of Singapore, SNB, the Central Bank of Switzerland, they've already done a lot of stuff. They know a lot of stuff about this. So in fact, we're already on to the next step. So we had a project called, it's a project for a Swiss private bank, but essentially it's a secure document, transfer and storage protocol. So we were able to execute that while being EU GDPR compliant. Now that is a very big thing, because in the traditional public blockchain, you cannot have that, because there's certain requirements, So for example, there's a right to forget, and for example, you must know all the node operators, and somehow there must be legally bound only through a slashing, crypto economic method to keep them in mind, So these are the real things that's happening right now, and I would say that, if you have any thoughts or any ideas or things, please come to us. We'll be very happy to get you updated.
Thank you, Aaron. So let's move to the last question. So any of you guys want to go first, let me know. So how do you see blockchain technology evolving in the next 2 to 5 years? Who wants to go first?
Let me take it. Looking into the future, I also recall what I experienced. I entered the industry in '96. That was the early days of internet in Silicon Valley. Then we go through Web 1 and Web 2, did some startups, and also work with some corporations. So that's a mission in my mind. So moving Web 3, I believe Web 3, and move Web 3 forward into the real economy. So in the future, say 2 or 3 or 5 years, I think the main goal is to really have the massive adoption in whatever areas we need to do. That's the way to land Web 3 into the real life, and let people get involved, and let people believe that's the future of the next generation of internet. Right? I think that's what we are at the corner of that. Because all the technologies are getting mature. A lot of projects are working hard on that from bottom-up approach. And also interoperability become more and more ready. So I think we just need to bring more Web3 model and real use cases into that, and make it scalable and user-friendly. So I think we are at the time of the starting point.
Sarviin?
Yes, so we are seeing 2 phases of adoption. The first is on the payment side. The second is more on how do we do trust. So on the payment side, what I would say is possibly in the next 5 years, what you'll see is your Chrome browser will come pre-installed with a wallet. Whether that's owned by Google or someone else, that's up in the air. But it'll probably come pre-installed with a wallet. And when users do transactions online, it's not going to be different than using your credit card. It's going to be very, very seamless. I think when the industry has reached a point where users can't differentiate between a credit card and also crypto, that's when we have done our job to the best, because it's very seamless, right? And the second on the trust side, I think with Gen AI, there's a potential problem, right? Which is, how do you trust whatever video, photo, or even music you're watching or hearing? Is that even true? How do you verify that? So I think that's where crypto will come into play. In terms of what shape or form, we don't have an answer. I think that's where crypto's strength, right? Being a trustless environment, verifying, that's how I think crypto will come. I think it's very interesting how this phase or these waves come in tandem. So you have the crypto coming early on, now you have AI with a lot of misinformation. How do you then verify this information? How do you verify truth? So that's where I think things will converge in the next 5 years.
Thank you. I think next 5 years, I hope there can be more transactions on chain, and can be more active addresses, and also have some great use cases, and also have some really interesting culture-driven meme coins.
Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually think that the future is really dependent on the US elections. You guys have heard of Trump, suddenly Bitcoin is the greatest thing ever. Yeah, never seen a coin like that. It's wonderful. So I think the speed of adoption, kind of like regulatory clarity, will depend quite a lot on the US election. But I just want to pick one area where I think is super interesting that I think some of the universities in Singapore is focused on. So they're really focused on the intersection between AI and blockchain. So the way Professor Zhu at SMU would describe it to me, because I asked him, why is that a thing, right? So he said that, AI is like this really smart person, right? It's not really a person, so it doesn't really have, human values, right? And somehow, we gotta keep them. There must be a guardrail. So he thinks that AI is like a really smart brain, but the really smart brain will actually need a guardrail. So basically, they're looking at this area, which I think will be fascinating. Just one example why it can be so critical. So right now, you have AI agents, right? That's operating social media accounts. It's generative AI, it can create, a bunch of content, right? New content. But it can also be used to launch an attack, right? It can be political, right? Especially in this election, probably it's already happening. So there's a need to actually differentiate which account is human, which account is not human. I think this is a project called Work, very controversial. It's to keep biometrics. But I think this is going to be a very big thing. But even beyond that, you see, EVs, for example, there's going to be universal. If we are asked to look at EVs to apply universal customer credentials, why is it important? Well, when you have a smart device, and a really smart device, the moment they have an ID on the blockchain, you're able to verify their data collection, and that data is actually worth money, right? And not only that, if they are on the blockchain and they have an ID, that also means they have a wallet. So you're basically saying that these devices can be human-like in the sense that now they have the ability to operate just like a human, and they really can decide according to the algorithm, is this thing worth it for money, right? Incentivize enough. So I think this is a very exciting future for our industry, because there's certain areas like game TV that's just gonna be mind-blowing, right? You can imagine the possibilities. So that's I want to say.
Thank you, guys. I think we are running out of time, right? No time for questions. Thank you so much for your presence here. Thank you, everyone. And let's move on to the next topic. Thank you.